arms. You see the way they use their arms, etc., etc. So that's the path of the ecliptic. And it's defining everything. Wherever the sun makes that signal fractally, which is everywhere, it defines the bodies that it gives life to. All right? And the sun and the 6 planets, the 7 visible orbs, they are responsible for all of it. And you'll find that Mark, the Gospel of Mark, is clearly showing us beautiful encrypted wisdom about that cycle. It's clearly there. It is absolutely clearly there. Let's have a look at Libra, shall we? Now, I want to focus, this chart comes from the book, comes straight out of the book, and I want to focus on these 3 signs here, okay? Leo has 3 deacons, Virgo 3 deacons, Libra has 3 deacons, okay? The first one is Hydra, the fleeing serpent. Crater is the cup, the Holy Grail, that we drink from when we come down from cancer and we get intoxicated. The crater is always here. Corvus, and it's explained in the book that Corvus is also the crow, right? Sorry, the crow, the cock, the rooster. Okay. Virgo has Coma, Centaurus, the horse, Bootes, the shepherd, and Libra has Crux, the cross, the Southern Cross, the wolf of the night, and the crown. That would be the crown of thorns. So what's going on is this. Remember that point of equilibrium? There she is, the just one, balancing the day perfectly. And there's the Southern Cross, where the sun gets crucified. This is the big crucifixion, by the way. This is the one where the sun is plunged into the darker polarity. So that's big judgment. In fact, that day there is called Judgment Day by the Jews, okay? And there's a lot of other reasons why it's judgment. I mean, the Egyptians, when you die, they call it westing, because you're going down in the west, where the sun sets. And the stars, when they go beyond the horizon, they die. They're born in the east. There, they die. So, this is the place of death. Libra is always there at 6 p.m. every day, judging stars and suns. Every planetary orb is judged by the scales. You see, this is the science that we were given, the Hermetic science of the Prisca Theologia. And the priestcraft has made a mess of it, teaching literal rubbish stories about it. You know, like Humpty Dumpty's a real egg. Okay? Yeah. Sounds like a Monty Python skit, doesn't it? Yeah. So there's the crown. It's also in Libra, Corona. By the way, I'll just show you them here. Let's do this. Leo in the heart, and the main star there is Corleones. And you remember the Godfather, Corleone? Corleone is the heart of the lion, the core of the lion, Corleone. And that's the main star there in Leo, because Leo is in the heart. The sun lives in the heart, the middle kingdom, okay? The 3 planets, the masculine ones are above, and the 3 feminine ones are below here, the 3 lower chakras, okay? So when you're dealing with Leo, you've got Hydra, the serpent, the crater, the Holy Grail, the cup, and the crow. Virgo has the horse. Pay attention, because all of these 9 deacons are spelled out in the Gospel of Mark, around about the time of the sun passing through Libra, okay? Coma Bernices, with her hair. Bootes, her husband, Joseph. That's Mary, Virgin Mary and Joseph, the shepherd. He's the shepherd, but it's Joseph. And he has a red star, Arcturus. That's the bear. In the northern hemisphere, see these northern stars, the brightest star is Arcturus, all right? You see the California flag with the bear and the red star above it? That's the bear, all right? He rules the northern skies. There's the crown, Corona Borealis, that's the crown of thorns that the sun wears as it goes through Libra and gets crucified. That's the cross that he's crucified on. And the wolf, the other word for that sign is the victim. The victim is the sun. Gets judged at the scales, crown of thorn, there's the cross. Here is the shepherd, as you'll see, we'll go through that, etc. What happens there, in Libra, the sun gets judged to go down to hell. There's the wolf there, the victim, dies on a cross, gets a crown of thorns. Before that, in the gospel, these are the chapters. So you can see chapter 16, 14, 14, 11, 11, 14, 15, 15, 15. So it's carrying the themes around about that part of the gospel where it would be. So the fleeing serpent is where Jesus defeats death. The cup is, he took the cup in chapter 14, verse 23. There's the cup. The son takes the cup because the son gets intoxicated now. Jesus is getting intoxicated, takes the cup. And before the cock crows 3 times, that's mentioned in 14:30. And there's the crow on cue. Coma, the infant, the branch, the desired one, and others cut down branches, blessed is he. So as Jesus came in procession to be crucified, they cut down branches. Well, that's the branches of Coma. Centaurus, Jesus enters Jerusalem on a colt. There's a colt here. The centaur belongs to Virgo. The centaur and the Southern Cross is right over here, okay? So they are closely connected, those 2 constellations. There's also 2 colts over here, remember? I don't know whether you remember, but there's the Asynellus Borealis and Asynellus Australis in Gemini when Jesus comes into Jerusalem to be crucified. Well, this is what he's doing. There are 4 crucifixions. But this one's the big judgment one. Okay, there's the colt that he enters. He enters on a colt. The great shepherd, I will smite the shepherd. That's in Mark 14:27. And then the cross, as I've already shown in those graphs, the cross, the victim, and the crown. These are all themes to do with crucifixion. There's some choice stuff in this book. For instance, in Capricorn, it talks about Saturday, because Saturn rules Capricorn. And it says, the Jewish Sabbath is Saturday, Saturn's day. We noted earlier that Judaism was born when the equinoctial point entered the constellation Aries. And there is no doubt that Aryan imagery of rams, goats, sheep, sacrifices and circumcision play a major role in the liturgical practices of Judaism. But the other cardinal signs, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, feature prominently in the development of Judaism. Libra, the polar opposite of Aries, the sign of covenants and law. Cancer, the sign of home and diet and mother. Capricorn, the sign of duty, service, social responsibility, and the father. See, mother, moon, Capricorn, father, Saturn. And when you do your houses, you'll find that the 4th house deals with mother, right? And the 10th house with honours and duty and service and authority and prestige and father, because Saturn is the father. You see the polarities. We have to work out the polarities in all of this to understand the science. Once you start doing that, you can navigate through all of these books. You can read the Upanishads, you can read the Eddas, whatever, and you'll know what you're talking about, man. The characters are always the same. In the Bible, the characters are always the 7 heroes. The 7 that go manifesting, the Elohim. And they manifest in the space of 12. While Libra is the sign which symbolises the law's origin. And why? Well, because Libra is always to do with judgment and law. This is law, you know, when you get your heart weighed on that scale in Libra. While Libra is in the sign which symbolises the law's origin and purpose, Capricorn symbolises its operation and enforcement, legalism. Concern for the letter of the law is therefore Capricornian. Similarly, while Christianity is a Piscean religion, it also relates clearly to the other mutable signs. Now get this, right? Christianity is saying is a Piscean religion, but it also relates to the other signs. Sagittarius, Gemini, and Virgo. How? Well, Virgo, Gemini and Sagittarius. its emphasis on virginity and celibacy are Virgoan. Its elaborate and divisive theology is Geminian, as are the letters which constitute a good portion of the Christian scriptures. And its missionary zeal and sacerdotalism are Sagittarian. Simple as that. All right, look, there's a lot of choice stuff in here, and I'm afraid I'm just going to have to leave it, because we're going on to some more stuff. Let's have a look at some science now a little bit. Let's have a look at some S words, shall we? There's the S. We've got serpent, spiral, and sine wave, right? Now, the serpent is also a septenary. Those words are interchangeable in the mythologies. In fact, they have the same root word. And spiral also has to do with spirit. And sine wave has to do with sin, okay? These are the 6 S words that we need to nut out and understand in order to get all this. Because you've got to bring in the metaphysics, and you've got to bring in the intention of the priesthood into this science. They didn't do this to, you know, entertain themselves on the weekend. They did this so that many, many layers of wisdom would be found in their holy works. And that way they would sort out, you know, the people from the courtyard of the Gentiles, right? Gentiles basically meaning people who are not really spiritual, serious, not serious. You know, pagans, or in fact that's what they used to call pagans, and that's very derogatory because it shouldn't mean anything bad. But the Romans used to say, the hillbilly pagans. Pagano meant someone who lived out in the sticks, you know, country hick. So that's why it's derogatory, but it isn't. Their worship was based on this. Those levels were put in there so that he who has ears and eyes to see would look deeper and dig deeper. That's why it's called esoteric or occult, the Prisca Theologia. Because, you know, you ain't going to just give it to someone who abuses that information. It's like you're giving, you know, a $1,000 iPhone to your 9-year-old son who's known for breaking everything you've given him, right? Well, you wouldn't do it, would you? You'd probably get a cheap phone and give it to them or something like that. So wisdom is supposed to be respected, and this is how you respect it. When you hide it and you give it to people who deserve it enough, and they did a wonderful job in doing this. This sine wave represents time, and the seven fellows that go through there, the 7 planets, 7 represents time and this represents space. You see, this is the space that they're allowed to go in. These are the Titans. And as they go, they always make these sine waves, right? And so this represents the flow of time, and that's what sin is. Sin is everything is spirals. Okay, so this spiral is not exactly 2-dimensional. It's 3-dimensional, which makes it a helix. Okay, helical. But as it does that, the spiral, it actually manifests physical bodies. And that's the spirit that it's talking about, the spirit behind the spiral. And it always is serpentary or a septenary. Okay, 7 is the number of nature. Let me just read some choice information from who is this king of glory? The spiral, the serpent.